survival pattern handy?
Yeah, I have it on my to-do list.
Okay. Why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about the journey, like life before groundwork?
I sucked.
Can you capture that? Life before groundwork.
Okay, life before groundwork. I feel like I can't even remember it. It feels like it was like a lifetime ago, but I feel like I was constantly feeling overwhelmed, balancing too many things all at once, and none of those things were coming into fruition, or they're like none of them, like I couldn't see the needle being pushed on any of them.
Yes.
And so I feel like I was like half-assing everything.
Right.
And I was always scattered. I always felt like I didn't belong here, I didn't belong here, I didn't belong here. But I feel like I was living my life on like autopilot a lot. So part of why I don't actually remember life before groundwork is because I wasn't present for much of it.
Right.
So I don't actually remember, like I wasn't conscious or present during that time.
Got it. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's very clear. Achieving a state of presence is a big motivator for the work that I do. Because I'm just like, well, what's the point if we're not present to the moment of like just the sheer awe and wonder of actually being alive in this moment, right? Like what else do we have if we don't have that? So I love it when people say, oh yeah, I just didn't feel present in my life before, and I have so much more presence now, both for myself and my own experience, but also in the way that we are with each other, right? And we impact each other, and we need more presence with each other. We need to be more connected. So tell me a little bit about, that state of presence for you now and how that relates to the work that you're doing.
Yeah, the state of presence now is like wherever I am is like everything that I've got is right there.
Yeah.
And I'm not distracted.
Right.
I'm not living as much in my mind, and if I am, I'm present to that too.
Right.
I live more in my body now.
Yes.
And I think I have better and actually fewer relationships now, because I think in the past I was trying to like fill a void with a lot of like relationships and things and people to distract me from like the pain that was in the present moment.
Yes.
So in the present moment now, there's less pain.
Yes.
And there's less disembodiment and more embodiment.
Got it. Is it like, do you call yourself an influencer? What's the definition of an influencer?
Not anymore.
No. Pre-groundwork, I call myself an influencer.
Now I'm not.
And now I'm not.
Yeah.
But you have a huge following. You have a lot of people who you share about your journey very publicly, very vulnerably.
Mm-hmm.
You always have done that, but it's interesting because you've said that people have said to you recently, even on social media, that they feel a difference in the way you're sharing about your life experience. What do you think that difference is?
I think in the past I wanted attention, but now I want to be seen.
Right.
So there's a big distinction between that for me. A lot of the things that I was doing before were very attention seeking.
Right.
And like I wanted to be witnessed, like I wanted people to witness my pain.
Right.
And to validate the pain and be like, oh yes, that's so hard for you. I'm so sorry you feel that way. Whereas now I don't actually have that anymore. So I used to share more on social media, which for me I think is like also like how I showed up in my relationship. So I would like overshare a lot in most circumstances. But I find that I don't necessarily need to do that as much anymore, and I find myself posting on social media far less with intention, because I don't actually have like a deep void that I am trying to fill with attention.
Yes.
It's more like being witnessed and speaking from intention or sharing from purpose.
Got it. Beautiful. Congrats.
Thanks.
I especially say congrats to Harpo. Like I said, she's got quite the following, and also the people that follow her are young brown women who are in pain, as we know. Our community is in a lot of pain. Harpo and I have a dream about revolutionizing that. But yeah, a lot of the women that I coach are women that have come to me through you, young brown women who are doing cool shit in the world and who don't want to suffer anymore. So can you tell us a little bit about maybe the survival pattern and how you've journeyed through the survival pattern over the last year, because it takes time. It's a practice, right? Like, we want to make sure we're clear about that. Like, you're going to get immediate relief, but the key is, like any good thing in life, it takes time, it takes practice, it takes staying in the game, right? Yeah, tell us about the survival pattern.
So previous to Groundwork, I had been in therapy for 4 years, and so with the different therapists that I had, I did a lot of like inner child healing, and just meeting my inner child, understanding that I have like a 5-year-old inside of me that's constantly crying and begging for attention. But I think in the survival pattern work, what I was able to do was understand that my survival pattern actually started when I was like 5. It started in a moment. It started when I experienced abandonment or rejection or pain for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
And then the way that my like 5-year-old self made sense of that experience is actually what duplicates and replicates like every time I experience pain since then.
Yeah.
So it is very sophisticated, because it's hard to actually unravel like 20 years, because I was 5 at the time, 20 years of like the same response again and again.
Yeah.
And you used the word samskara earlier, and it's like the pain is at the base, but then samskara is just like imprints over
That's right.
imprints over time. So it's like you have to keep filtering through.
Yeah.
And so now I feel like I have more understanding of my survival pattern, but I'm constantly going back and adding to like the to-doist like survival pattern list, because I'm like, oh, I did this. I like, for example, I was in survival and I was jumping through all these apps. So I jumped through Instagram, messages, WhatsApp, Snapchat, email. That's the flow.
Familiar, anyone?
Yeah.
Jumping through the apps.
I jump through all of it, and I will open my email when I don't need to, like at least 5 times, and I forgot Slack too. So like it's a loop. And so I put that on my survival pattern. And so behaviorally what I do is I jump through apps. And as soon as I do that, I'm like, oh my God, I'm in survival. So I put my phone away. And then I also have mapped out what heals me. So there's at least like dozens of things on there now that heal me. So I know that I have to go and do one of those things.
Nice.
So it's all there. It's like it's physically all written out for me.
Yeah. So
So
you
that
can't
I'm more
deny
awareness.
it. You don't have to like think through it. You take the cognitive load off.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, I know the process. I know the framework.
Yeah, and so when I first did the Groundwork retreat last October, I think I was in like a state of survival or state of pain for like a long period of time.
Yeah.
And then it started to come down. So it was like 2 weeks, 1 week, a few days. And then I remember voice noting Amrita once. I left my house and I had a 10-minute drive, and I was in pain when I left my house, but by the time I got there, I was out of pain. I shouldn't have been doing this at red lights, but I was dropping into the pain. But by the time I had that 10-minute drive, I'd already come out of survival, because all I did was give awareness to what was happening.
Yeah. Giving awareness to what's happening. That's it, really. That's what it comes down to, doesn't it? Yeah. Perfect. What advice would you give people who are just at the beginning of the journey?
I think the first time you start to drop into the pain, like, at least for me, like my world was really crumbling. Like it was really, really hard to visit that like experience.
Yeah.
Which to like an adult mind is very simple. So if I could share what the pain is, it's at 5 years old, my mom is going somewhere. She's going to the store, and she's decided to take 2 of like my younger cousins who are around my age. She doesn't take me. So I'm like at the window with my grandma, and I'm just like banging on the window, and I'm crying, and I'm throwing a tantrum because I want to go with them. But 5-year-old me can't understand why she's not taking me, and immediately I like built like I'm not good enough right there and then. And because it was 2 other women and then like a third woman who like, you know, created pain for me, now I experience pain with women like throughout my entire life. I'm constantly feeling like other women are better than me, or like I'm not good enough, or that they're my competition. So much of my work now is going back to that 5-year-old at the window, and just realizing that anytime something happens, oh, it's just the 5-year-old banging on the window again. Right? And so the first time and the second time and the third time that I visited that 5-year-old at the window was so hard. Like anytime I would go and do a meditation and I would sit with that 5-year-old, I would just cry all the time. It would be really hard.
Yeah.
But it's gotten easier now. So the advice that I would give is to just like be patient with yourself, and to be patient with like the part of you that first experienced pain, because that part of you couldn't understand what was happening. You've built this entire system, this entire pattern over time. Yeah. And to unravel that also takes patience.
Yes.
So like patience and like really like holding yourself in a container of love is so important. And it might not feel like you're doing much in the beginning, but you really are. Yeah. Because you're just like scratching the surface in the beginning. Yeah. And then you can become so intimately connected with your pain that like when you're speaking to a group of people and you're feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough, you actually like that 5-year-old is sitting right next to me right now, and I'm like also like coddling her at the same time as I'm speaking.
Yeah, you're present with both.
I'm present with both. Yeah. And it doesn't actually even have to be a conscious decision anymore. It just happens.
It just happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this idea of the 5-year-old, I mean, you know, a lot of people never have any, you know, experience of like knowing truly where it came from. So I just want to clarify that you don't need to know where the pain comes from. It's not essential by any means whatsoever. And sometimes memories come spontaneously when you're kind of dealing with that aspect of yourself and you're dropping into that place. And so if the memory comes spontaneously, we let it come and we just bring awareness to it. But really, when we talk about pain, we're talking about the flavor of pain. We're talking about the experience of just being in pain. And then whatever comes of that comes from that. But I think, you know, I think I shared the story with you recently. When I was with my dad in Toronto, right? My dad's like, you know, obviously my dad is like one of the primary reasons that my personal pain formed in many ways, because my dad loves me to death, but was so hard on me also. And I was in the car with him in Toronto recently, and we had such a good time. We had a really great 4 days together. And we're in the car on the way to the airport. He's taking us back to the airport, and he turns to me and he says, "Oh, Amrita, you're so fake." And I was like, okay, I know what he's saying is not accurate, because I'm the least fake person most people know. I'm like, where is he getting this from? But it was just like a jab, and I felt the jab of pain, right? And it was so cool, because in the past, I would have like, you know, whatever, fought with him, argued with him, pushed back, whatever. I would have done whatever behaviors or whatever my survival pattern would have wanted me to do and what I was conditioned to do. And instead, I just felt the jab, felt the pain arise in me, stayed present with the pain for that moment in time. It dissipated, and then I just said to him, "Oh, Dad, you're just sad because I'm going to the airport. You're going to miss me, aren't you?" And he was like, "Yeah," and he started tearing up. So the thing is, this is it. When we're in pain, we're talking to others, pain to pain. This is the thing, right? Like, this is why the work is so crucial. Because if you're in pain, you're speaking from pain, this person's being, and now we're not even communicating. What are we talking about? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will say, like, well, what happens when I get out of survival mode, but everybody else around me is still in survival mode? What does that mean? Like, great, I'm on a team of 10, I'm not in survival mode, my whole team is. And I don't know, I don't want to know what your experience with this is, but like, my theory, and I still hold on to this very true, which is one person gets out of survival mode, it displaces the entire dynamic. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If just one person does it. Yeah. Because there's nothing to resist in the experience of that pain, right? You're like, you're not gonna be in that state of resistance. You're gonna be at ease. So there's nothing that can get you. Yeah. So what's your experience in leading a team with the survival pain, the work and the pain?
Yeah, in that context, like if I had been granted the opportunity to become executive director last year, I would not have been a very effective leader, because I would have been in pain response the entire time. Right. I wouldn't be able to do like the important parts of leadership that are required, which are to listen, to hold space, to actually mitigate conflict. I think now I have a newfound definition and understanding of leadership, which is to be like a conduit, to be a container. Beautiful. Before it was like it was a bit patriarchal as well. Like it's like you're at the top and you're the one actually, you know, creating the change. But really now I feel like leadership is like a conduit. It's like things need to flow through me. And so they can only flow through me if I'm not in a place of pain, if I'm not like, you know, for example, if one of my team members is not performing well, there are different reactions that I could have. I could link it to, they're not performing well, this organization's going to suffer, and then when the organization fails, that means I fail, and that means I'm not good enough, and then what was the point of all of this?
Yeah.
Right? So that's like a simplistic, sophisticated way of the pattern. Yeah. But if I was like in touch with my pain, if I was, grounded enough, I was at ease, I could actually respond to my team member without personalizing it, without making it about myself.
Right.
And so I think doing this work and then being able to like just have awareness, to have like context around what's happening has helped me a lot in my organization. And some of the team members have taken groundwork at like a very entry level, but they don't necessarily have the skills or the knowledge to understand survival pattern or pain. And yet, just by watching me lead in the way that I am with the compassion and empathy that I have, it just inspires them to also, like, I think, and also like, by virtue of the fact that we're all in this room doing this work, we're gonna go back and introduce new things to our team that they might have never actually even considered. Right? They might have been in spaces where there wasn't space for them to be their full selves. Like their human being self. And so just by us changing even the language or the way that we approach things, we're introducing them to that new world that they might not have had access to before.
And it brings so much relief too for people when they hear that. They're like, oh my, I'm not so alone. Like I thought I was the only one that was suffering the way that I'm suffering. I just did, was it yesterday, Kelly, that we did? We met with, basically I coach these founders of these startups, and they're all in a group together called Maker, and it's basically a group of founders higher than $5 million valuation in their companies and all under the age of 35. And they're just an impressive group of people, and they're just so cool and just doing amazing things in the world. And I basically took them through the survival pattern work. I had 1 hour with them. And I had the two people that I coach in that group, both the founder of Maker and the founder of Bloom, share their survival pattern. And it's so vulnerable to share your survival pattern, right? Like they were saying things about themselves that they don't even share with the people closest to them. And here they were in this group with other founders, like their peers, like telling on themselves basically. You should have seen the relief in the room. It was palpable. People were like so grateful that people were kind of able to tell the truth and just be authentic about their experience and the difficulties and challenges that they're facing. And even just doing that brings so much healing. I think it's amazing that the people around you are watching that. You're seeing the impact of that around you just by you living it and breathing it.
And we haven't talked about focus areas yet, which we will, but in mapping my survival pattern and understanding what my, what's the, like, trauma response, is that what it's called?
No, the underlying pain?
No, like fight, flight, fawn, what is that called?
That's a survival pattern.
Survival pattern?
Yeah.
Okay, so in recognizing like what my actual pattern is and like how I respond, I'm also able to like pull tangibly like how those things actually play out when I am leading. So like fawning or people pleasing is something that I do, and I can't do that as an executive director. Like I can't make decisions based on, like you were saying earlier, Paul, like caving or like, and so what we'll do is like through the groundwork system is like I'll pick something for a focus area that will actually try and correct that.
Beautiful.
So something simple was never making a decision on the spot, always saying, let me get back to you. Let me talk to my team. Even if like there's no team. It's just you. Actually, it's you, yourself, and I. It's the team. Your 5-year-old self. Your 5-year-old. I gotta go visit a window. I'll be right back. Please do. Yeah. But like that is built into my focus area for like 3 months. I'm practicing that.
Beautiful.
And that is making me a better leader.
Yeah, beautiful. I was just talking to Govind about this a little bit, but one of the really core things that I teach is not going too far into the future, not trying to problem solve for too far into the future, because we have no power there. We have no data there. The only point of power is actually in the present moment. And for most people, when we go too far into the future and we over-strategize, it triggers a survival pattern. Surprise, surprise. So in groundwork, one of the things that we do is we look at what the next 3 months are about. We don't go much further than 3 months. We go 3 months at a time. especially just with the speed at which things are changing in the world right now. I mean, even in our workplaces, and things are changing so quickly, so it's very difficult to make decisions too far out anyways. But a non-survival based way of making decisions is the capacity to just slow it down for a second and not operate from this like urgency reactivity piece that causes so much of the problems that we face, right? Like always putting out fires constantly. And one of the things that you and I've talked a lot about is this idea of only closing the gap so far as you have the clarity, and not needing to figure things out 20 steps ahead, but actually just going, okay, I know this much right now, I'm going to act on that. I know this much right now, I'm going to close that gap. And so many of us are suffering because we're just crippled by decision making when we're in the survival pattern. But when you're not in the survival pattern, you're at this foundation of ease and clarity, then there's no problem in saying, I don't know actually, but what I do know is this, and I'm gonna close that gap. And so, I wondered, because you and we've talked a lot about strategy for the organization. You guys just came out to my place to do strategy. Any thoughts or things that you could share about how do we handle long-term planning organizationally and like just for our lives without kind of perpetuating the survival pattern as far as you see it?
I think like immediately like white space in my calendar comes to mind. That's really huge because I think now I'm learning on this side of groundwork, and then also just as a newer leader, that you have to give so much space and time for things to naturally emerge. But if you're too fixated on achieving X and achieving Y, you actually don't allow time for those things to arise, because you're so hyper focused on the results of something. Likely, like the likelihood of you having packed your calendar to achieve those things is also very high. And so you're actually not able to be present to like allow the natural flow of things to arise. So you might not be present enough to participate in a conversation that might actually get you connection to the money that you need to secure. You might not have time in your calendar to attend a workshop or attend an event or take like a Pro-D course. So like overpacking and overcommitting and overdoing actually pulls you out of being that conduit, right? Because there's just not enough space for energy to flow, for things to flow. And so white space in the calendar was like a huge thing for me, because I used to like double pack and back-to-back meetings and then social events every night. And that was
I remember that. Social events every night.
So we had to make a rule to like not do 2 social events back to back, and
that's right.
I think I'm at like only 1 social event a week actually. That's the rule right now.
Beautiful.
Because it's too much. Because like my job also requires me being social a lot. So like, where am I gonna pull that energy from? I'm dead by the end of it. So that was huge, and also like I was overpacking my calendar because I didn't want to have to sit with the pain. Hallelujah. So I always did stuff. So I had my master's by 23, and like I never took a semester off. I like was in school for all those years, and like that's part of like this hedonistic treadmill, this like constant urge to keep doing and hitting goalpost after goalpost, which was preventing me from experiencing pain. But was a detriment to like the actual growth of what I'm trying to do, which is to like allow room for things to naturally arise and emerge.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for this conversation. As you know, I think you're just like the coolest person ever. And thanks for all the good work you're doing out there.
Thank you.
Any questions for Harpo, anyone?
How does the full master class, the whole week event
of groundwork?
What does that?
Well, it's immersive. So it's at a retreat center usually. We're just going to start offering them for teams as well, because I think teams need it as well. But basically, you come, you get fed, you don't think about anything. You show up and you do the work. It's basically what we're doing, but in a way more immersive and kind of with more time built in. I do them at Hollyhock once a year, and in Brighton Bush in Oregon once a year, as you know. And then at Big Bear Retreat Center outside of LA once a year. Yes, Pradis?
So when we became aware of our survival pattern and like we understand everything about ourselves, my question is that, so we're gonna be like in a situation time to time
Where
that's
it's challenging.
challenging, of course, challenging, but sometimes we have to choose to stay there. Of course, we should stay there, see the pain, and feel it. But if we want to get out of that environment, because you don't have to like torture yourself somewhere.
Absolutely. You want to set yourself up to win.
Yeah.
100%.
So, so my thing is that, like, how to not escape from it, but to do it consciously. And if you don't have a choice to get out of it, then how to survive there and don't become torturing again.
Yeah. I mean, Harpo, I get curious to see what you have to say about that. Because, I mean, I have lots to say about that, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think what I've done in the past and in situations like that where I'm being challenged and the pain is very much on display, is to practice presence. I know that sounds really simplistic, but it is to like become so present and aware through practice to be like, okay, I am experiencing X and this is causing me to feel Y. I used to revert a lot to like victim in that moment and that exchange and then start to like fight back. But part of like, I wouldn't call it escaping. Like you could call it protecting yourself also.
Yeah.
Or just like taking a pause or creating space. You could just call it that and choose not to engage. Like, I mean, I've got someone in my life who constantly challenges me all the time. And I actually have to say to them, I need to take a break because it's actually not helpful for me to respond from this place. And I care about you, so I want to respond from like a proper place, an intentional place. Can we talk about this again in 10 minutes? Or can we pick this up again when I'm feeling better? Like, it's not necessarily escaping, it's also just creating space.
You're setting yourself up to win.
Yeah, and you're putting yourself first. Like, part of my survival pattern is self-abandonment. So to counter that, I have to be like, I need some time right now. And not in like an aggressive way. I'm never aggressive anymore. I learned from Amrita that like clear is kind. Like I'm just being clear, and as a result, I'm just being really kind.
I think that's a difference, That's yourself, don't react, but like give it a space.
Yeah.
But also to say that like sometimes you will be really angry. Most of the times you will. And when you do go back and you have time to yourself, it's like, don't beat yourself up over it. Because I was like, but I do groundwork, but why do I respond like that? Like, I'm supposed to be better. But then it's like, oh no, okay, it's okay. Like, it was probably just the 5-year-old again at the window.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. Superman has kryptonite.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
How when I'm listening, like so many similarities besides the 5-year-old at the window, but a lot of other reasons that lead to that. And what I heard from you about the white space and loading your schedule up and going back to back, and that was a survival technique or pattern that you used. I think what drives me in that, and I guess my question is that it's almost like an integrity quotient. If you start to realize that you can't remain in integrity because your schedule is so loaded, stress is now.
Yeah.
You're disappointed in yourself for not living up to your commitments, your agreements. And I think that, and I guess my question is that the purpose for the white space or is it something I'm just trying to read into that's familiar that I've learned from other places and trying to make sense of it?
Well, I think you're on the nose in some way because we like a goal of mine, like a focus area of mine was integrity during this time period, because in a way I was saying yes to things that weren't actually aligned with, like they weren't rooted in integrity. They weren't aligned with what I actually felt like was true for me or right for me. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I fully understand the question, but in a way, yes, like it was very much rooted in integrity. And I think I was saying yes to also like fulfill and like, again, like check off things off a checklist to make myself feel good. It was a false sense of productivity, but also, what's the word? Like
justification.
Yeah, like a validation of sorts.
It is,
To be like, look at how much I do. Of course I'm good enough.
Yeah.
You know, I'm always busy. You know, I don't have time for people in my life. I don't have time for things because I'm really important.
The other thing too about the integrity piece, which I think is so important, is if you're being hard on yourself in any way, then there probably is no integrity.
That's
Yeah.
And so you're loading yourself up to have that as your, I'm too busy, how can I? do
Yeah.
this?"
Yeah.
To a point where you can't keep up, so then there's a reason for you to,
Yeah.
and
Right.
then you're letting out, then other people are starting to get affected, and then it's poison, right?
Yeah.
Well, and
I was gonna say, I think for me, it's like, in law, like, I'm often asked the question, do you have capacity?
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? Like, do you have? Well, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I was gonna sleep tonight, but I mean, like, I could just push that off the side and get sleep tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
like people ask me, do you have? Yeah, I have capacity, bro. Like, you know, like I'm, you know what I mean? Like, I'll get it done. Like,
Yeah.
don't worry. Like, my job is to say yes. Like,
That's
you're
right.
closing the deal.
Yeah.
Let's close the deal.
Yeah.
It's gonna get done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I didn't. I think I'm just starting to realize that, like, maybe I don't have enough respect for myself
Mhm.
to not put myself through that type of self-harm. Because at the end of the day, like, it takes such a huge piece of me when I don't go to bed with my wife, or when I wake up so early that I miss out on my morning walk with my dog, or
That's right.
and you know, occasionally it's like, yeah, okay, but then it becomes a lifestyle, and then it becomes how life is,
Yeah.
and then you're just trying to get through life, and like I'm like, okay, today's okay, it's gonna suck today, just get through today, it'll be okay tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes, it's like,
Same thing.
well, shit, I didn't close that deal, or that deal got extended, or I got another deal. It's like, okay, we'll just get through that. And I find myself, I'm just trying to get through days.
Yeah.
It's like, what am I doing?
Yeah. That's
I'm
exactly.
harming myself
Yeah.
to make sure that everyone else, to be a fawn.
Yeah.
I don't want to say no to you.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
want to make you happy. My job is to make you happy. My job is to serve you.
Yeah.
How dare I say no?
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know. I just, it takes a huge, a piece of you goes with it every
Yeah.
time, right? And I think I'm just starting to realize that maybe I don't have enough respect for myself.
I think
Beautiful.
there's
Yeah.
there's an insidiousness almost like self and others when you're asked do you have capacity, or like the ways we're asked to take on more work, especially if our leaders aren't leading from a place of compassion and that sort of like vessel that you were talking about. Because on the one side, if you say no, you're saying, if your pain is this, you're saying, I can't do it, I'm not worth it, like I'm not worthy, as you were saying.
Right.
And then your leaders are also basically daring you to say,
It sets you up for
well,
failure.
you can't, exactly.
'Cause either you
There's-
say yes and you kill yourself, or you say no and
Yeah.
you're not good enough.
And
Yeah.
so I think,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. That's
totally, I think it's so cool to see so many leaders in the room, because it's so important that as leaders you don't, like, you can view your people and see, like, obviously there's no capacity, don't ask, like,
Yeah.
find other solutions, or like
Or
allow,
rephrase the question.
or rephrase the question, or
Right.
or
Have empathy, have
re-strategize,
compassion.
re-strategize and have that white space and have space. But it's that do.
There's no
more,
time
more,
for
more.
empathy.
Yeah.
No, because he,
No, I'm kidding.
because
but-
they're scrambling too.
Of course.
But that, like, he's
Well,
literally
this
like,
is the thing. They're all in survival mode as well.
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
like, I have 20 files. Do you have capacity to do this or not? Don't waste my time, because otherwise I'm gonna go to the next guy.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Like,
Yeah.
yes or no, move
And
on.
I think
Yeah.
there's so much beauty in saying, okay, go to the next guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
that too.
there's
Yeah.
and saying no, like no is so
Yeah.
powerful. It took me a long time to learn that.
Well,
Like,
and
no
I think
is
an important part of the survival pattern is like it's performance based as well. So part of my survival pattern is perfectionism, and that comes from like who I am is inherently not lovable and good enough. So I have to perform, and that performance is I have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Everything has to be like crisp, perfect.
Yeah.
And nothing can fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
And I can't possibly fall apart or say no, because then that breaks the illusion of perfect, and that would be crumbling. That would be, I would experience mass suffering
Yes.
if I was to understand and realize I'm actually not perfect,
Yes.
because it would force me to reckon with the fact that the pain that I actually have is I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
So you have to pretend. And so I think the overdoing and the saying yes is actually just like a very, very grand, sophisticated way of holding up the performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To yourself.
To yourself,
damaging.
of course.
Because it's
Yeah.
because in recognizing that you are not perfect, there's so much fragility in that, and you're like, it's like terrifying to experience that.
Oh yeah.
The
Yeah.
imperfection is the perfection.
Exactly.
Yeah. Realizing it or appreciating it. Yeah.
Just to backtrack real quick, I just want to be really clear that in the work that we're doing here this weekend, what we're doing is we're equipping each of you at a personal performance level, right? At your level, so that you're equipped to be in whatever environment and space you got to be in. but that you have your own capacity and your own wits about you, and whatever people do is what they do. We don't need anything to be different outside of us. And yes, there are major systemic issues in our society and our workplaces. We know that. Nobody can deny it. But we're going to start at the individual level, one person at a time, and start to shift it that way. And I promise you, you'll see the results around you as well. Okay. Any final words for these folks?
I think that the work that I'm doing with Groundwork and Amrita has really inspired me to commit myself to like brave, open-hearted leadership, like heart-centric leadership, to really keep my heart open to everything. I think that's the individual impact. It's like this system, this way of being has equipped me with like tools to practice opening my heart, which in a way is impacting a lot of people, because like some of the people that I'm around now have never ever experienced anyone like being there with an open heart with them.
Yes.
And just that minor change changed things.
Yes.
So I think that, you know, as a leader, I'll say for myself, it's so important for me to be in touch with my pain, because if I am coming from a place of pain, I can't actually build the world that I want to live in. That's my like tagline, is building the world I want to live in. I cannot possibly build a world that I want to live in if my heart's closed, if I'm in pain and I'm in survival. It's just like a non-negotiable now.
Yeah, beautiful.
This doesn't exist.
Beautiful.
So I think that's why it's important to commit to the practice for me.
Yes.
Whatever that practice looks like for each of us, but to
Yes.
really commit to it, because all the work that we're doing is so important.
Yes.
And all the people that we're leading are so important.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm not making it life and death and big, like, you know, but to me, it kind of feels like it.
Well, there's so much
Right.
data around this now. I sent you that Harvard Business article, right? Harvard Business Review just published an article saying that obviously leaders who are in touch with their pain are more effective leaders. I'm like, great, thank you, everybody. Hello.
You didn't send me that, so you should capture sending it.
Okay, can you capture that for me, Kelly?
Just kidding.
Send it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
yeah.
that is so beautiful. Thank you for that. That's so special, and I totally could not agree more. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Harpo.
Ooh,
Yeah?
thanks.
Move on to the next.